Welcome to another episode of You Don't Know Jack with Lydia and Matt. How's it going, Matt?
Good, Lydia. Good. It's a nice day here in Mountain, Maryland.
Yep.
Got those juices flowing early.
Oh my God, it's so humid out.
I know. My buddy, our buddy Nathan, former
Yes.
guest of the show, Nathan Price,
Yes.
and I got out there, got after it, got about 5.5 miles in walking.
Impressive with the right fitting shoes.
Yes,
That's also
right fitting
helpful.
shoes. Had a foot issue. My takeaway a week ago was the moral of the story is don't exercise, bad things happen. But on the road to recovery.
Yeah.
No, it was but a nice day for it.
Yeah, you
and
pulled me out of retirement on that.
I know it was bad.
It was, but you know what? You're on the right
I
path
am.
and exercise is good for you.
Yeah.
Again.
And I don't have a wide foot, but you were like, you still need to buy a wide shoe.
You
So
buy
there you
a
go.
wide shoe.
It's been the magic.
You need
the
to be able
magic
to wiggle.
elixir.
For anybody out there that's having issues finding shoes, your feet do change as you get older.
Yeah.
And rule of thumb, you want to be able to wiggle your toes
Yeah.
in the toe box. And you don't want any friction points,
Yeah.
as you well know.
So
Yep.
so back in nice day, kicking off my vacation.
Yes.
Even
Your
though
annual vacation.
even though I do have like 3 client meetings on Wednesday.
Listen, I have found that there is no such thing as a full vacation.
Yeah, it's very hard.
It's hard. I also feel like if I were in a place where I couldn't just like check on things, the thought of the email cascade that I'd have to go through when I got home
Right.
is
It becomes
much
daunting.
more.
Yeah, it becomes almost, you're like, oh my God, this is going to be so bad.
Yeah, it's anxiety filled.
Yes.
Like when I was in South Carolina last week
Mm-hmm.
and I had a couple client meetings and I had some work to do, and it was great because I was like, I'm only going to work for 2 or 3 hours and then I'm done.
Right.
So, but that made me much calmer, much
Yeah.
more present.
Well, I have a client that is a property owners association that's not far from where I'm going to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I said to him about meeting, they wanted to meet. And I said, listen, I'm on vacation, but I'm there. I said, if you're cool with shorts and flip flops, then I'll do the meeting this week. And they were like, yeah, we don't care. And
Yeah.
so, it's 2 birds, 1 stone.
Doesn't matter. You can dress up your brain or not. It's
Right.
still the same
Exactly.
brain.
But I just said to him, like, guys, I'm not dragging like dress clothes up to, to
Right.
come over.
I'm coming in
If
flip-flops
you want to
and
meet
shorts.
live,
Yeah.
I'm going to be in shorts and flip flops.
I might bring a cooler.
Yeah. No, I've been behaving, man.
No, I know. Like
Yeah.
just like maybe a seltzer or something.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's
4th of July.
4th of July is coming near Thursday.
Yeah.
So this is Saturday, by the way, as we're at episode 21, as you
Mhm.
mentioned. So this is Saturday. So, it feels like the 4th has snuck up on us.
It always does. I
Yeah.
feel like, this summer is really going quickly. It just seems like the weather was super lovely besides the heat dome, which I drove
Yes.
south to escape. That was
Amazingly,
bananas.
it was cooler for you
Yeah.
in South Carolina than it was
nice
for
cool breeze,
us
low humidity,
here in,
Mountain Maryland.
yeah, that was just crazy.
It was too intense for us.
As you got back, you pointed out to me it is way too hot.
Yes.
And I'm like, yes, it is.
Yes, you're like, yes, I have been suffering in silence for the
but
last few days.
Yeah, but it was, but the 4th has snuck up on us. So,
Mm-hmm.
going to retreat to further Western Maryland. And
Nice, much cooler temps.
yeah, it's going to
Yeah.
be nice. But though I like it.
Yeah, I know you do.
I like heat.
Oh, I'm aware.
Yeah.
Because we don't have any in the winter here.
Yeah,
remember?
exactly. I know. Yeah.
Burn barrels.
Yeah, exactly.
Then here's your
Saturday.
actual burn barrel, but you just have to walk out your front door.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. But even I, like last Saturday, I would say we pushed my limits.
Yeah,
I was
I
like,
was gonna say,
wow,
I was
this is like,
This is too hot.
yeah, I was
Even
like,
for you.
even for me, I was like, man, this is not comfortable at
Right.
this point in time.
Well, now we just need some rain because the grass is not green; it's now brown. So it would be nice if
Mine is green because
course
I'm
yours is.
dumping water on it. Like, I'm single-handedly solving Cumberland's budget crunch with my water bill.
this year and last year.
Last year was
Yeah,
filthy.
I have to say, worth it though.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
I mean, you
looks lovely.
got U.S. Open rough over there, man.
Yes, you do. Absolutely.
You hit your golf ball in my yard, you ain't getting out clean. Okay,
Nope.
you're gonna take a stroke penalty.
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely.
Yeah, that's how
And
we
no
roll.
divots.
And it is wonderful walking on them barefoot, though. It is good. It's got
Highly recommend.
It's like walking on cushions.
It's perfect.
It's like wiping your rear end with silk.
We are knocking it out of the park
Yeah.
this morning. All right, so we're going to cover a lot of things, baseball being one of them. But before we get into baseball, because it's a baseball heavy
it is
podcast.
baseball. It's
It's
baseball season.
Yeah, so let's just talk about the NBA draft briefly.
Yes.
History-making NBA draft. It's Bronny James was drafted 55th in the league. He'll be a part of history as he will play on the same professional team as his father, LeBron.
Assuming he makes the team.
Assuming he makes the
Because
team.
remember, second round draft picks are not guaranteed contracts in the NBA.
Correct.
First round picks get a guaranteed contract of 3 years.
I have a feeling he'll make the team.
I think they sort of said they'd like him to spend some time in the D League.
You know,
But I think there will be an opportunity where he will be on the court with his dad this year because it is history. Much like Ken Griffey and Ken Griffey Jr.
Absolutely. They'll sell. It's a ticket sale situation.
And just it is a great human interest story. I mean, it's never happened.
Never happened.
Never happened.
So he'll wear number 9, and his last name will be James Jr. on his jersey.
Because even though it goes by Bronny, he is LeBron James
Jr. Yeah. So scouts say that he's 6'2" with a jump shot that lacks consistency, but he possesses physical skills and basketball IQ are exemplary.
Yeah.
But
They like his defense too.
They like his defense. His passing is good. I just think that his skills are. He didn't play all that much at USC, and I think he got drafted so low because he had that cardiac event.
Yeah, and listen, people can say what you want about him. Man, a year ago, this kid had a cardiac arrest.
He had a heart attack.
And ultimately had to have a surgery to correct an undiagnosed at the time congenital defect, and to come back and play almost a full season at USC. Okay, but that certainly hampered his development.
He didn't do well,
and they said think about it. You're 18, and most 18-year-olds think they're physically invincible, and the emotional impact of him going through that, and so
I think the emotional and mental toll.
Yeah, that's so. I mean, to even be worthy of being in the discussion to be drafted, because there are apparently some other teams that had some interest potentially in drafting him earlier in the second round, and apparently Rich Paul, his agent, who happens to be his dad's agent, was saying, "Look, if you don't draft him, because if you do, he's going to Australia." Like they kind of were manipulating it to get.
I mean, I feel like everybody knows, and maybe it's like, look, LeBron is like on his way out. We know this, and he's like, his dream was to play with his kid in the league.
And I think though the NBA respects that.
I think so too, and I think they're going to say, look, we'll make this happen for you, and then you'll retire. Yeah, and then your kid might not.
Yeah, I think this is probably LeBron's last year.
I would hope.
But the only thing I will say is he continues to play at an exceedingly high level.
Yeah.
If I say to you, okay, name me the 10 best players in the NBA, I think you're hard pressed not to include LeBron James. Even at 39, even at 20 seasons. It's not like he's hanging. We've seen guys hang on, right?
Yeah.
I mean, even Shaq, end up at the Celtics for a cup of coffee. A lot of people don't remember.
I remember that.
Yeah, but I'm saying Phoenix. Remember, he went to Phoenix and then to the Celtics.
Yeah.
So it played for the Cavs too with LeBron. Remember? Yeah, he did a cup of coffee there too.
Yeah.
So the point being is,
you mean you can do your
LeBron is not doing that. LeBron is not hanging on.
No, I think that he'll make the decision probably after the end of the year.
Yeah, and it's probably a lot of it is how his body feels. Hey, if he enjoys playing with his son, it feels good, and he could be back for another year. So I don't know. We were actually, other things that Price and I talked about as we were walking today, we're like, man, I'm 46. So Price is like 43. We were like, we're just talking about getting beat up, like walking and stuff like that. Like imagine being like Tom Brady. Like how did he do that to Tom Brady is my age. He's actually 4 months older than me. Like I'm thinking I said to Price, I said, if you pushed me to the ground right now, I feel like I'd be like a turtle. I'd be like a turtle on my back. I would have to be like, they'd be like, oh God. And I'd be like rolling over,
I'd get a call, be like, I'm going to need matzo ball soup and ice
I
pack.
would be like trying to stand up, it'd be so awkward. And I'm thinking how does that guy.
Wait, how long do you lay on the ground? A good 20 minutes?
At least a couple minutes. I would be like.
And just be like, is anything broken?
Yeah, I'd be trying to do that self-assessment and be like, why did you do that? Why am I on the ground? Now I have to get up, and it's like, oh man, I would just be this sense of dread. Oh, jeez. So, so for LeBron, it gets back to my point was.
Is that why you have dachshunds, so you don't get knocked over?
Exactly. Well, they could trip you though.
That's true, actually.
They're trip hazards.
Silent but deadly.
Yeah. Silent, blind. So, but I'm actually heading from here to PetSmart because they do sell CBD kind of things.
For Rusty.
Yeah, the travel with my dog. So I'm going on vacation, as I mentioned, and I'm about just about an hour from here. My dog, Rusty, is a 16-year-old dachshund. He's blind. He's deaf. It is a traumatic experience for him. But I don't know what to do. I can't not take the dog, clearly.
Right.
And so I've given him the CBDs before. I'm going to double dose him. I'm going to get one in early in the morning tomorrow, then hit him again an hour before we leave and try to make him high as a kite.
Well, I think
Yeah.
he'll just sleep.
I was going to give him straight THC, but I thought, man, that could be too much.
Maybe too much.
I mean, it's legal for us. So,
Yeah.
It's maybe Rusty wants a little
Yeah, but
recreational.
Rusty needs like tiny.
Yeah, I know. Like, how would I get?
How do you dose it?
I know,
How do you
exactly.
dose a dachshund?
Yeah, like, do I get like the 30 milligram and cut it into 30 pieces? I'm giving him 1 milligram. Yeah, like, but how could I even cut a gummy into 30 pieces?
know.
Yeah, I mean, but anyway, be that as it may.
Yeah. Well, at least you've got a plan. And
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
All right. So baseball lost a legend,
Yeah.
which opened up a lot of questions for the two of us last week.
Yeah, I think baseball, with the passing of Willie Mays, I think
The
especially
Say Hey Kid.
the Say Hey Kid, especially since the recent passing of Hank Aaron, I thought he was unquestionably the greatest living baseball player.
Yeah, of course.
Amongst, we said almost 3,300 hits, 660 home runs, a 301 career batting average, one of the most iconic defenders and arms in baseball history.
24-time All-Star
Yeah,
appearance.
I mean, he was, absolutely in. I mean, Willie Mays is always in the discussion to be the greatest baseball player ever. So
Yeah.
clearly when he was still alive and after the passing of Hank Aaron, Mickey Mantle obviously a while ago, he was sort of stood alone as the clear
best
greatest living baseball.
Yeah.
I mean, which was famously coined by, remember, the Yankee Clipper, Joe DiMaggio, sort of nicknamed himself the greatest living ball player. He certainly had that debate. I mean, I was always sort of questionable with Ted Williams being alive if he was really the greatest living ball player, and Willie Mays and Hank Aaron, but that was DiMaggio's stick.
Sure.
And it worked, okay?
Because we're still talking about it.
Ted Williams would say he was the greatest living hitter, just the greatest hitter, okay? But so now that begs the question, Lydia, is who is the greatest living baseball player?
So,
but that, as we covered, that second generation of baseball, I look at it is sort of, we're in the, we have the fourth generation playing.
Yes.
Okay. So now we're looking at the third generation as to who's the greatest living baseball player, because the second generation's sort of all gone.
Yes.
That the DiMaggios and the Williams and the Mantles and the Mazes and the Aarons, that group's gone.
Yeah.
And then the first generation were the immortals. That's Babe Ruth and Ty Cobb and Hannes Wagner and Tris Speaker and those guys. Okay, that's like first. Okay, that's first generation. Second generation's now gone too. Sort of they were essentially the World War II generation.
Yes, they are.
So they're gone.
Yep.
So now we're in that the guys that played really 70s, 80s, and into the 90s. Who is the greatest living baseball player?
Yeah. So most people initially. Bonds was the first one that came
Absolutely would be a candidate.
Yes. And then Ken Griffey Jr.
Absolutely.
I mean, come on. Then
I think Junior, it's so much, one, his statistics.
Yep.
His defense it was elite.
Listen,
and to not have the taint of the steroids. Now, what you could say about Ken Griffey Jr. is what's amazing is his stats and his numbers. Man, he was really beat up. He just couldn't stay healthy with the Reds and still has, epically huge numbers.
Right.
I mean, and again, injuries are part of the game, but some of the other guys, and maybe they didn't get injured because of what they were doing,
Yes. I mean, so Bonds is complicated in my eyes because, and we also have another guy on this list that is complicated too, with Pete Rose.
Right.
But, I would say that Bonds he was a great ball player without steroids.
Barry Bonds, if he never took a steroid, was probably going to hit somewhere 550 to 600 home runs.
Yep.
He was already a 40-40 guy.
He would have, if he had not taken the steroids, number one immediately.
Yes.
But now that he has his asterisks, it's
does
sort
hurt
of
him.
like, it hurts him significantly because you look at somebody like Mays who has integrity and did not do anything like this.
But that's where I look about Ken Griffey Jr. No one has said Ken Griffey Jr., he's never been even a hint of it.
No.
Ken Griffey Jr. just kind of got thicker, like in his midsection. Not that he was heavy, but he looked like just a man going from being 18, 19 to 34. He just
slower metabolism.
Look,
that man's metabolism is slowing down.
But no, he didn't look like his head size wasn't getting bigger and his feet weren't growing. He's like, no.
Yeah.
I mean, he was getting nicked up, banged up and stuff.
And having to
take
take the appropriate amount of time to recover.
Yeah.
Pujols is number one, is
on the list. I mean,
list.
look, I mean, you're talking a guy in excess of 600, but excess of 700 home runs, right? I mean, so interestingly, I did this and I sort of got some pushback as you're going through the list. There are only 4 living baseball players with at least 3 MVP awards. Albert Pujols, Barry Bonds, Mike Trout, and Michael Jack Schmidt of Philadelphia.
Yeah,
he's got 3 MVPs.
Listen, I'm sorry, he's got to be in the conversation.
He's an elite. Look, 500 in the neighborhood of 550 home runs.
Yeah.
3 MVPs. An elite glove. Now, what you could ding Schmidt on is not a great batting average. Never got to 3,000 hits.
No.
But man, I mean, in the 1980s, there was no better third baseman. And maybe no better baseball player, certainly in the National League, than Michael Jack Schmidt. Especially in the early 80s, in the late 70s, early 80s, man, that was, and he won a World Series, and played in another.
Right. And then we got Pete Rose.
I mean, what do you say about Pete Rose? He is the hit. Well, he's actually said, I think Ichiro is the hit king now, okay, or certainly acknowledges that Ichiro is in that discussion.
Yeah.
But
Ichiro is also on our list.
Pete Rose is the ultimate hit king. By the way, that guy played elite defense at multiple positions.
He did.
Okay.
He was an all-around.
And he was also, the competitiveness. Pete Rose is one of those guys, and I mean this is a great compliment to Gunnar Henderson. He reminds me of the way he plays, the way that Pete Rose plays. If you watch Gunnar Henderson, the Orioles, most of the Orioles in general, the Orioles always want to go first to third. Yep. Okay, they always want to score on a single from second. It was that constant. Pete Rose never gave away an at bat. Nope. Okay, he's always going to grind. And look, his gambling has nothing to do with where I say, is he the greatest living baseball player? It's not. He's certainly not the greatest living human.
No,
okay?
well, no. But that's not the question we're asking.
But Rose didn't do anything to cheat to make his stats different.
No, he didn't. So if you're like, he gambled, but here's the thing: Bonds cheated to make his stats different.
Right.
So that's an effect.
Yeah.
Pete Rose gambled.
Right.
Nothing for his physical ability.
Right. Nothing. His betting, it was always obviously when he was a manager. Even if he was betting when he was a player, Pete Rose does not have one more hit because of his gambling.
Correct.
Or one less hit.
Or one less hit. Yeah.
Because. I think the gambling was really more as a manager, because I can tell you there is no freaking way that Pete Rose would have done anything to lose a game as a player.
No.
Not that he's ever actually been accused of trying to lose a game as a manager. Okay.
Right.
He's never actually been accused of that.
Right.
But I'm saying, like, Charlie Hustle is in that list. He has to be.
So let's just go lateral move here. Ichiro. Listen, Ichiro.
Look, he killed the ball for years in Japan.
Yep.
He comes here, wins the Rookie of the Year and the MVP. One of the, again.
By the way, also a radiologist.
Yes, and also I'm going to piss people off, and it's no disrespect to him. The best arm out of right field this side of Dave Parker and Roberto Clemente. An absolute howitzer. An elite defender. Okay?
I loved watching him play.
Yeah.
Because it was so fun. He was fun. He reminded me of Ken Griffey Jr.
Yes.
There's
something artful about it. There's something elegant about the way these guys play baseball.
Absolutely.
There was an elegance to it.
And it's both Seattle.
And both left-handers.
Yes.
That classic left-handed swing. That left-handed swing. It's Ted Williams, right? There's something. Well, someone always said there's nothing elegant about a left-hander pitching, okay? They always said, like, left-handed pitchers, they're always, like, discombobulated, the jersey, the way it goes.
Right.
But there's something just naturally beautiful about a left-handed baseball swing.
Yeah.
Tony Gwynn, okay? Just some of those great, iconic swings. Think about it. If you're sitting here, what right-hander has this beautiful swing? You don't really, when you start thinking about, like, the sweetest swings in baseball, you almost always gravitate to a left-handed hitter.
Yeah, absolutely.
And again, it's no disrespect. It's just.
No.
But Ichiro, the guy was just, such a pro.
And it might be that this list is constantly changing because, with new players coming on. But I think that this particular generation of baseball players, you're going to have to start to rank them. We did put Ricky Henderson in there and maybe Derek Jeter.
Yeah.
But Derek Jeter doesn't really.
And could you really put Jeter above, like, Cal Ripken?
No.
Cal's got 2 MVPs. Jeter's got none.
But I meant most games in baseball.
Yeah, most games in baseball, 3,000 hits, over 400 homers.
I think
Cal certainly could be in that discussion. I don't think he's – now, look, if you put a gun to my head –
See the best living Orioles player, Ripken? Eddie's
in that discussion.
Eddie definitely is in that discussion.
Eddie, and then, of course, Jim Palmer.
Oh, yeah.
even though he's a pitcher. So by the way, no disrespect to the pitchers. I will absolutely have a discussion as who's the greatest living pitcher. If you ask me to vote right now, man, I'm probably voting lefty Steve Carlton.
Yeah.
Though, I mean, Koufax is still alive, but Koufax's career got cut short because of injuries.
Yeah.
The other guy that I'd put in there would be Maddox.
Yeah.
350 some odd wins. Randy Johnson. But I'm not talking about pitching.
No.
I just don't think the only pitcher I would talk about as the greatest living player or greatest player would be Babe Ruth or Shohei Ohtani because they did both.
Right.
Okay. I think that's
hit and
pitch. But I mean, if you ask me, gun to my head, who would you vote for as the greatest living player right now?
Yeah.
I'm probably voting for Ken Griffey.
Same. I think that my only hold up with Bonds is the fact that he, listen, he changed his physicality and he cheated. Yeah. And I can't handle that.
I know. And listen, but you and I both agree. Barry Bonds didn't take one frickin' steroid. He is a first ballot Hall of Famer immortal. And I get it. I'm not condoning it. I get it. Like Bonds saw Sammy Sosa and in particular Mark McGwire. And he's like, this guy is a crappy baseball. He's not a good baseball player.
I'm a great baseball player.
And everybody's talking about him because he hits home runs. He can't field. He can't run. He doesn't hit for average.
So imagine if I took this.
Right. Well, and what Bonds' point was is like, this guy's a stiff. Like Bonds was just like offended by it.
As he should be.
And he's like, these freaking guys are cheating and they're getting all this publicity. Like, these guys couldn't carry my jock in a suitcase, man. And I get it. But Bonds should have just been better.
He should have been better. And he should have just basically not done it. He should have not succumbed to the peer pressure of doing that for 3 players. Yeah, we could talk about this.
But the year that he hit 73.
Yeah. I mean, it was.
When you would watch it, the guy would get 1 pitch a game to hit.
I know.
And he hit it out of the park.
I know.
And because by the way, Barry Bonds, also a left-hander, right?
Yeah.
Was extraordinarily Bonds would not swing at balls. He just wouldn't do it. But you made one mistake and you beat him the strike zone. He's just gonna just pull over. Again, the distance of it, I think, is impacted by steroids. It doesn't change your hand-eye coordination and his ability to understand the strike zone. Again,
listen, it's not taking away from his baseball intelligence. I'm just saying, for me, you alter your physicality with taking steroids. I can't.
Yeah.
I can't. I just can't. So for me, it's Ken Griffey Jr. But ask me next week, it might change.
Right. So, but no, listen, this is a great thing to talk about. This is what's fun. I have groups my buddies that I text with. Yeah. This is a back and forth.
Absolutely. And it's a dynamic conversation because it can constantly change. Or you can be like, oh, did we ever think about this guy?
Right.
Oh, and then you start to talk about that and start to think about it in a different way. And this is why I think sports is so, especially baseball is such an American thing. Because, we can sit here and talk about stats and we can talk about...
You let me leave out a name that you should have been challenging me on.
Oh, yeah, what?
Yaz.
Oh, yeah, Yaz. Yeah.
Played forever.
He did.
Tons of hits, tons of homers. Oh, by the way, when we talked about the second generation, I totally left a guy out that I should not have, Stan Musial.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Stan the Man is Stan the Man.
Stan the Man,
Yeah, I mean, one of the, just by all accounts, just a legendary baseball player and a legendary human. He's up there with Brooks Robinson country in terms of a human being. Yeah. But
well, we should also talk. We have been on and off because it's summer and usually, we have a good time in the summertime. But during this past break that we took, the MLB finally integrated the Negro League stats into their stats, which is incredible. So now,
most notably, you're going to see the impact with Josh Gibson statistically. He has some of the all-time great single offensive seasons in baseball history. When you look at slugging percentage and Josh Gibson, remember, famous, played for the Grays, a catcher, actually died relatively young. But was just he was the Babe Ruth of the Negro Leagues.
So that's
actually, they said he was better than Babe Ruth.
You can't. So I know that these stats were segregated for such a long time, and people were always saying yes, baseball, he's the greatest MLB player statistically here, but you're leaving out an entire part. And the MLB now smartly has incorporated that as a part of their history because it is a part of their history, whether it's pretty or not. But now I think what's great is that from here moving forward, those stats are incorporated because they are playing baseball.
Yes.
And it's an incredible thing.
So it did a huge thing for Josh Gibson's stats, did a huge thing for Satchel Page's stats. and lots of guys, the Buck O'Neills of the world, and just the great Negro League players.
Yeah. And
they were just great baseball players.
Just happy that they're honoring it finally. And it's like, now from here moving forward, it's just sort of like, okay, now everything is like accurate as far as statistics go.
It's funny when I look at baseball, though, I still give you the exact same answer every time.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about greatest living player.
Yeah.
I think and look, people can debate whatever they want. I think the easiest discussion is the all-time greatest baseball player. No one is going to push me off Ruth. You just can't.
Well,
I mean, what he was able to do as a pitcher. And I think after he hit home run 150, every home run he hit, he set a new Major League Baseball record.
yeah, exactly.
And went to 700. I mean, no one will. Look, there's so many great players. I understand it. We've named them.
Mm-hmm.
You could talk about Ty Cobb and this.
So
Babe Ruth is the greatest baseball player. Of course, I never got to see him play,
right?
But
Well,
just obviously. But I just think like when you see what he did, how he did it, the dominance of pitching,
and also he was at the very beginning of baseball, so it's sort of like you can't. Yeah, you can always look back.
Does baseball look like baseball without Babe Ruth?
No.
Probably not. He made it the pastime. He brought it to national attention.
Well, and people wanted to go see Babe
Yes,
Ruth.
I mean, I just no one will push me off that. No. You listen. Total respect for Willie Mays and for Hank Aaron and again some of those guys that were just also just great humans.
Yeah.
I'm not saying Babe Ruth was a great human. He certainly was.
He was the first baseball celebrity. How about that?
And he was also a hell of a lot better human than like Ty Cobb.
Uh-huh.
But Babe Ruth, but Cobb famously said, he didn't want to give him any credit, said he could run for a fat guy. Babe Ruth could really run.
Yeah, he was athletic.
And by the way, Babe Ruth is also hitting all these home runs. He's batting about 360 when he's doing it. So I mean, I just always think. For me, like in football, it's not as clear. It's different positions, blah, blah, blah. But baseball, everybody's got bat, okay? And so it's kind of evens it out. It makes it a little easier to say, in my mind. But I just don't see someone push. And I don't like the Yankees, but I understand. I love Babe Ruth because he is from Baltimore.
Yeah.
I love that tie to Maryland. But it's just, whether I would have been a fan of his or not is irrelevant. I just think he's the greatest baseball player of all time. And you can come at me with any number of guys. Again, I'll recognize how great these guys were. Not Babe Ruth.
Yeah, he's the first.
Yeah.
So speaking of our Baltimore,
yes,
though, with Babe, and a great statue at Camden Yards.
Yes.
You and I had a great time in Baltimore.
We did. Father's Day. We
carpooled it down.
Yep.
We were just having a great time.
It was.
It was Fleet Week.
Fleet Week, and the. So we saw what we thought was going to be a pitcher's duel.
Yes,
but nobody told the Orioles.
Right,
because, man,
exactly.
They bludgeoned Zach Wheeler.
They did.
I will tell you a lot of respect for the Phillies fans in the sense that they stay. Like man, Yankee fans would have been heading for the door in like the sixth inning.
Exactly.
The Phillies fans, they stayed.
Yep. It was a sold out crowd.
Yeah, sold out crowd. And actually I felt bad as I was sitting in the bleachers. I lost a half an inning sitting there. No alcohol involved here when I say I lost it. The plane, the flight, one of the combined fighter jets, there were 3 outs that happened that I didn't watch because I was too busy watching the fighter jet.
Yeah, so when we say it was Fleet Week in Baltimore, in the harbor, they had a great, just a great display. And they had a flyover section of Fleet Week that happened to occur during the baseball game. And so when I tell you we were very much watching the game, and then all of a sudden there's an F-35 going vertical, right, like coming into the stadium and then going straight vertical. There is no way that you were going to pay attention. There was
a stop in game
3 times.
Because even the players were like, everybody's like watching.
Apparently they were told, like, hey, there's going to be a flyover, just a heads up.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, okay.
Right.
Whatever. And I will say, during the entire game, there were flyovers.
Oh, yeah, because they were the older jets.
The older jets, and it was lovely. It was cool, and they were like releasing red, white, and blue things, and it was great. And everybody was like, oh, look at that. And then they were right back to the game, right? But when an F-35 comes at you and then goes straight up, and the sound that makes.
And the sound, when it's flying towards you, you don't hear it until it's gone, until it's passed, till it's coming over. Like, it would literally just sneak up on you.
It snuck up on 40,000 people. Yeah. And then the guy was like totally into it.
Oh, this guy was...
The pilot was like, he opened the cockpit at one point, and it was just like,
He
hanging
actually
around.
opened the cockpit. Yes.
And I was like, what is he looking for? The score?
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah. And by the way, he is flying, to put this in context, he is flying around and in between buildings in Baltimore.
Yes.
So that's how low he is to the deck by military parlances. He is like, 500 feet off the deck.
Exactly.
I mean, he is like
and
low.
And at one point, just like hovering and turning the aircraft 360 degrees, and it looks like it's just standing still. Incredible stuff.
Yes, it was awesome.
It happened. He, I think, was like really playing it up because
the boy was having a good time.
He was having a great time.
Good for him, man.
Let me tell you something. Incredible.
Yes.
Glad we were there for that.
Yep.
And by the way, the game was great.
Yes, it was. I mean, we were in the upper deck, but we were shaded.
Yep.
Very comfortable.
I will say this, just a PSA for people going to stadiums. There is a website called Shade My Seat, or Is My Seat in the Shade? And it'll tell you where the sun is at different times a day and where there's shade. So, like, if you really want to be in the shade for a game, and I don't blame you because it was lovely.
Yes.
Then look at that website and find tickets in that particular place.
Yeah, it was just a great experience. Baltimore was, it was a good day in Baltimore.
It was electric.
Father's Day.
Father's Day,
so
yes.
My daughter was with us. So my daughter, your husband, and then some of your husband, some of Tim's family members.
Yeah, it was great.
Nice
Tim's cousin Mike was there with his 2 kids, and his sister Julie came.
Yeah.
Sister Julie is a diehard Phillies fan as well as Tim, and she made this great sign for their dad.
Which was awesome.
Yep. And so it was a good time. Everybody had a great time.
Yes, they did.
And I will say, listen, the ballpark, that's the first time I've been there with the new owners. And love the fact that they're doing these 10 items for $4. So,
by the way, David Rubenstein, the owner, was very close to our section, and we probably missed him because I saw it on X afterwards. Like if we missed him, by, he was like going around talking to people. If we missed him,
and I love that, by the way.
Section or two. Yeah.
I love that he's in with the fans and the crowds. But
by the way, the highlight though, last night the Orioles played. Did you hear who the guest, Mr. Splash was?
No, who was it?
It was not a Mr. Splash. It was a Mrs. Splash.
Was it Joan Jett?
She loves rock and roll and the Orioles.
God.
Yeah, Joan Jett.
She came back.
Yes.
Because she did it the day before we were there, too.
Yeah, Joan Jett
she loves the
Orioles. She's like a committed Orioles fan.
Yeah.
Man. Yeah.
I love it. But no, parents especially were saying, and there was a great birthday party that was next to us, and all these parents like rocked it out, brought all these snacks, and the kids had a great time. But the parents were saying,
we're watching the one little girl in between you and us. This kid, she was literally covered in chocolate. And then the double down on the
ice cream,
and then cotton candy.
Oh, right.
But yeah, it was like, but I was loving it. This kid was like,
it's the best time.
It's owed to be 4 years old. I mean, just literally,
looked like
my daughter and I were just sitting there, just dying because she was like covered in chocolate.
It's the best. Yeah. Best people watching, but also the parents and people coming to the game said, "Hey, we'd like to bring our kids, but it's really expensive to get them water and all that other kind of stuff." And they said, "Okay, well, we thank you for that feedback. There are going to be 10 items on our menu that are $4.
No,
so $4 hot dogs,
Yeah.
drinks, and popcorn and some other stuff." So
and baseball is pretty good about letting you bring certain stuff in. I mean,
absolutely,
you can bring in peanuts. You can bring in
sealed water in. You can bring snacks.
Yeah.
No, I think it's great if you want to. You could bring sandwiches if you wanted to do that. But the fact is that every kid, when you go someplace, you want something.
Oh yeah,
you want Cracker Jacks or whatever. And I think it was. I love the fact that they're listening to the fan base because they themselves are fans and they have to understand that.
Right.
And those tickets. I mean, I've never been to a sold out O's game in a long time. It's been a long time.
Yeah, but it's no, it was just a great atmosphere. Yeah. Like I said, the Phillies fans, the Philly scumbags is no, and I mean that in a good way. That was great, man. It was a good time was had by all.
Yeah.
I think a good time was had by 40 some odd thousand people, including the Philly fans who
absolutely.
By the way, Bryce Harper is an impossible out. I mean, just
my God.
Like, by the way, you're gonna have a debate on greatest active player in baseball. Man, he's got to be at the top of the list. He's right in there.
I will say
he's just so good.
Because Tim is a Phillies fan, and I was like, well, let's face it. Right. I just was there to have a good time. Yeah. But the dynamic hitting of the O's, it's hard not to be excited. I was excited for that. But also watching Tim's team, because it's on in the house all the time. It's nice to know all the players on those teams and seeing them hit.
Absolutely.
And it's really great and dynamic. It's
but
fantastic.
So it's funny is we're at the halfway point. The Orioles and the Yankees.
Mm-hmm.
The Orioles are technically in first place.
Yes.
There's no games back, but the Orioles have a higher winning percentage. And of course, they've just murdered those scumbags twice.
Stankies.
Yeah, I mean 5-2. You know, listen,
Yeah.
big boy baseball. Hey, the AL beast runs through Baltimore.
100%.
But let me say this. So they're talking about Aaron Judge and the homers, and I get it. I got to tell you, I don't think Aaron Judge is the best player in the American League. I think the best player in the American League is Gunnar Henderson.
I agree.
Gunnar Henderson, who's second in home runs, he plays a premium defensive position, shortstop. Judge plays right field. He steals bases. He does all the thing. Like, Judge ain't going first to third, okay? Judge ain't stealing bases.
I mean, you can run that
and
fast.
again, I'm not saying that I'm totally respect his power, but
they-
there's so much more to baseball than just being able to hit the ball out of the park.
It's not a hitter's game anymore. You got to be. It's much more dynamic.
Well, I think with the bigger bases, I think without the shift, and I think there's more incentive. You don't have to try to hit the ball out of the park all the time.
That's not the thing is to get right. It is not about hitting. And there's a few years where it was just all about hitting and the shift.
All about hitting home runs.
Hitting a home run.
Launch angle. I hate launch angle.
Oh God. My point is like now it's actually we're back to baseball and it's about fundamentals and skills and it's not about if you hit a home run. It's about runs getting in.
Yes. This game isn't about home runs. It's about runs.
Yeah.
I got to score more than the other guy.
Uh-huh.
And I just think right now at the halfway point, yes, I'm biased, but I don't think this is a biased opinion.
No.
I think given the position he plays, if you look at their statistics and everything that he brings to the team, I think Gunner's the best player in the American League.
Yeah.
I just do.
I mean, it's pretty exciting to watch him play a couple weeks ago.
He's kind of a guy. He's one of those guys, much like Bryce Harper. Man, when they're up, you want to make sure you're watching.
Yeah.
Because it's not just that they're going to hit the ball at the park. Man, if they hit it in the gap, they're probably thinking triple.
Yeah.
Okay. That's their mindset. They're not just thinking double. These guys are thinking
They're running.
triple.
Yeah.
They're like, as soon as Bryce Harper hits a ball into the gap, he's thinking, can I get to third? He is looking, and Henderson is too. Is there any bobble in that outfield? If you bobble that ball, especially if they hit it to left so they can see you the whole time.
Right.
They're going to go on their own. Obviously, if it's hit to right, they're going to be counting on the third base coach. But he still knows that guy's going to be really aggressive, and if it's going to be close, I'm going to let him come. So, I just think that for my money right now, Gunnar Henderson is the MVP of the American League right now.
I think it's great. All right, so we've got to switch from our favorite topic to one of...
I have one question for you, since you asked me about it. I just thought about this. Greatest living Red Sox. Is it Yaz? Is it Big Papi? I don't know. Who's the greatest living Red Sox?
I would have to probably say Yaz. Although I do love Big Papi, but Big Papi was a hitter,
right.
And Yaz is
right.
Yaz.
I would think it's that. I would probably say Yaz too. You could say Roger Clemens.
I mean, I could, but I'm not.
No. But I was thinking I mean, I think.
I think I like Yaz. Yaz is. I think he's. Yeah, you've got to go with Yaz,
especially because he's like Mr. Red Sox.
Absolutely.
I mean, hey, by the way, don't forget, as you won't know, played for the Red Sox, Adrian Beltre.
Oh, yeah.
You would talk about an underrated superstar. I mean, Adrian Beltre was just a monster.
He was.
He was a problem when you're playing against him.
He was a problem.
Both at Texas and Boston, he was a problem player. Yeah. And by the way, one of the guys that always looked like he was having so much fun playing baseball. Like Adrian Beltre loved to goof around, even on the field during the game, not giving away outs. He would just do goofy stuff.
Just was fun. He was a fun player to watch.
He understood he understood it was his job, but it's also there's reason to say play ball, not work ball.
Exactly.
He got it.
Exactly. All right. So we're gonna we're gonna touch on the debates briefly.
Yeah.
This is not something that so I'm gonna give this
for your own health. Go ahead.
For my own health, I'm going to give you this caveat here. I did not watch the debates. I did not interact with the debates. I didn't read. I read some passing things about the debates because I am just going to tell the American public and anybody that's interested, I'm just going to vote against fascism at this point and trust that the current administration will be against fascism and put in place a cabinet of capable human beings. That is my stance on it. I can't handle it. It's sort of like there are two candidates that are not ideal.
Right.
But there's nothing we can do about it.
Right.
It's like the best of the worst case scenario. Not the worst, but it's not ideal, right? But it's not fascism. So that's my thought process. And I think that I'm very selective with what I expose myself to these days. So I'm going to let you take the floor on the debate. I do know that it evolved into arguing about
golf scores and body mass and
right, which has nothing to do.
I did love when he said he had the morals of an alley cat. I thought that was very good. But look,
that's probably the only true statement that came out of his mouth.
Well, no, he said that about Biden's had a lot of true statements. No, but it was maybe the most cogent statement that came out of Biden's mouth.
Mm-hmm.
Look, I certainly think like most people that were hoping for Joe Biden to have a good performance, he did not.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really confused by that because, look, Biden seemed okay a couple hours later. He got greeted apparently at the airport at 2:30 in the morning in Raleigh, was very interactive with people. And then on the stump yesterday, he was fantastic.
So here's my thing. Do you think that it's because, and you and I talked about this in the kitchen before we got up here, that, it has to be incredibly difficult to debate somebody who doesn't know how to debate, will only say false facts and pull attention from whatever the question was and not really answer the question.
Yeah, but I don't think that, yes, I do think that is hard. But it didn't explain the lack of strength in his voice.
Gotcha.
He just looked and sounded like I wanted to say Judas Priest joke. Just get it out, get that big clear throat out.
Yeah.
Like he just
act like an 81-year-old and just be like,
just like hack something on the thing.
Up and I
just spit it right towards Trump and said, come on, bring it on. Yeah, you're a lion, dog, face, pony boy, or whatever he called the one person, 5 years ago. But yeah, and so Biden did not seem strong. I thought he had some moments in the second half. I thought he actually got stronger as it went. But man, and again, Trump looks and sounded fine. But it was a fire hose of lies.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it is like it is unimaginable. The number of lies that one candidate can put forward, and CNN's. I guess they agree to this. Their inability or unwillingness to fact check it.
That's the thing. I don't appreciate. So there is a way to do a debate, and to make it so if a candidate is lying, then you can say, "I'm so sorry, that's not true." Just sorry, we're going to mute your mic because you're now. That's it. Like what you've said is not true. Done.
Right.
Moving on. And then, so there is the ability to hold somebody accountable during a debate. They didn't do it. And I think that that's a problem in this country. Yeah. And I think also, I long for the days where presidential candidates, you didn't really know what they looked like. You read their platform in a newspaper, most likely, or some sort of periodical. Right. And then you made your decision based on platform, not on if they were likable, who their families were, none of that. And that's how people voted. And I don't understand, like, Nixon lost against Kennedy because it was televised and
Everybody who apparently listened on the radio thought Nixon had won the debate. If you watched it on TV, there was no chance Kennedy won it.
So that plays into part of it. And I think the money in politics, as I said before, you write a platform, you publish the platforms, you vote on the platform. Right. Because at the end of the day, it's about governing and making legislation and improving the American experience. And all of this distraction and craziness is literally like causing panic, paranoia, and anxiety that's unnecessary.
I think it's, it's sort of what John McCain talked about. But the problem with Donald Trump is there's no normal order.
No.
Whether you like it or not, Biden's or whatever that administration is going to be run by, we've returned to a level of normalcy, essentially, in how our executive functions.
I think that,
and I think that's important.
Once he was sworn in, and a few months after he was sworn in, it was like, there was like a level of like,
as we were going through COVID, it was still like,
we're just like, okay, all right, I don't have to like worry about.
I know, like, what stupid thing is the current president going to say?
Exactly. So I feel like that's there, but I also know that I can't engage with it, and have been, even with my own parents who get very worked up. They're like, oh, we got, and I'm like, I'm not talking about it.
Right.
And as soon as you say you're not talking about it, it basically takes the wind out of the sails of people wanting to talk about whether it was good or bad or ugly or how bad it was. And I was like, I'm just going to vote against fascism.
Right.
And I think that a lot of my friends are basically like, life is hard enough. Like I need to pick and choose my battles here. So.
I get it. And like I said,
doesn't mean I'm not looking at real estate in Greece and
Right.
Portugal, and Italy. So just a heads up.
There you go. I mean, I'm sitting there thinking though,
you'll have to come there to do a podcast.
Exactly. But as I watch, like I said, I think I just don't understand. As you said, is this really the best we have to offer? I think Joe Biden, and there were some op-eds written, I think he had an extraordinarily successful first term.
Yes.
I don't sort of understand the American disconnect between like their views on what they think the economy is versus what it is, and something like that.
Yeah.
But all that being said, this put the Democratic Party really in concern. And now understand this: the only way that Joe Biden is not nominated at the convention in a month and a half, is if he opts out.
Mm-hmm.
Because remember, he has won more than the necessary majority of delegates.
Yep.
They are obligated. I think they're obligated to vote for him.
Mm-hmm.
So he would have to physically release those
He's
delegates,
not gonna do that.
and I don't think he's going to.
I feel like the liberal media, just calling it what it is, the headlines were like, okay, look, could he have done better? Yeah, but they were so like negative and so awful. And it's just like, hey, everybody has off days. I understand that this is probably not the best time to do it, but also he is the current president of the United States and he's got a lot on his plate. So debating an idiot for 2 hours or whatever it was, is not really a high. He's like, why would maybe he was like, look, I know I have to do well here, but if I don't do well, like whatever, I'm still running the country. And I also have bigger fish to fry besides this like lying idiot.
Right.
So maybe that's the perspective we should take from it. If you're an undecided voter, which is my biggest concern, if you're an undecided voter, let me make it very clear for you. If you vote for 45, you're voting for fascism.
Yeah.
And if you don't, and you vote for somebody that's going to maintain the status quo for the next 4 years until we can finally get some candidates that will be a positive option,
Right.
then do that, please.
Yeah.
And then you say to yourself, well, who wants to get into the fray?
Yeah.
Because there are no Democratic candidates that have really shown that they are capable.
Right. I think, though, the Democrats have a decent bench.
They
if
do.
they needed it.
Mm-hmm.
I think certainly I would put Gavin Newsom, Gretchen Whitmer right at the sort of my top elite candidates. Pete Buttigieg, I think is an elite candidate.
I do too, yeah.
I am not. I don't dislike the vice president.
No.
But she didn't really overwhelm me in 2016. She kind of fizzled out. Like, I'm not sure she's great. I think our governor's fantastic here in Maryland. I think Westmore would certainly be in the list. And that ability to communicate.
Yes.
Man, I would like to see him debating Donald Trump. Or any number of these guys, like Gavin Newsom would be very good at it.
Yeah.
Gretchen Whitmer. And again, Joe Biden 20 years ago would have made mincemeat of this guy.
Mm-hmm.
For whatever reason, just a bad day or whatever. But it's still, and Biden is not he's never been a dynamic speaker. Okay.
No.
He's never been, but he's been, he's a policy guy. So he would be very good on the policy.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So like if you're running on a platform, you got a good policy guy in office. Let's take the charisma and the public speaking for a man who has definitely struggled with speech because of a stutter.
Right.
And still does. You've got to get up there and you've got to make sure you got your nerves in check. You're also 81 years old.
Right.
And you've had a long day already and it's 9:00 at night and you're debating.
Yeah. But Joe Biden is one of the least sort of that sort of persona that we've elected in modern age, other than since maybe George Herbert Walker Bush.
Yeah.
I mean, look.
The charisma is.
Right. The charisma. Right.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Ronald Reagan had it. He's a movie star. He had it in spades.
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
William Jefferson Clinton had it in spades.
Played the saxophone.
George W. Bush, man, he had a lot of charisma, man.
He did.
George W. Bush played that, man. Yeah, he went to Yale and Harvard, okay? So don't Don't forget that. But
yeah.
he very much like, man, that's the kind of guy I want to sit at a bar with, tell stories with.
Yeah.
You know, he'll joke. Everybody gets a nickname, but he's got that
guy next door.
He got that strut, and he said, in Texas it's called walking. I mean, but he's very good at that.
Right.
Obviously, God bless you.
Excuse me.
Yeah, Barack Obama. I mean, clearly, one of the great orators in American history.
Right. He had good cadence. He had good. Yeah.
And he also just kind of cool
swag.
Yeah, he did. I mean, but think about it. Like Bill Clinton and George W. Bush and Obama definitely had a swag factor. All three of those. And Trump, very much a persona, charismatic. And we get whether, like, look, when he was running the first time, I'm sure as hell wasn't going to vote for him. No. But I thought it was funny. Like, I thought, man, he's calling Jeb Bush low energy, Lil Marco, like, until we started making fun of people with, like, disabilities or veterans that spent, 6 years in a POW.
Well, we all thought it was a joke and that he would fizzle out. And
but I mean, it was sort of, he made debates entertaining. And I'm like, okay, this is kind of funny, very low energy Jeb, like, okay, that's funny, like Meatball Ron or Ron DeSanctimonious, even that's what he's called recently. I thought that's funny. But now it's, but I just didn't think he was going to be president. But again, Biden does not have that natural charisma that most of those guys have had.
No, but he makes good policy.
Yes. I mean, and he goes back to the era where, Nixon, not exactly charismatic.
No.
Gerald Ford, a very decent human, but not Jerry Ford was not Mr. Charisma.
No.
Jimmy Carter wasn't really Mr. Except Jimmy Carter digged rock and roll. I mean, he was very much, he loved music, the Allman Brothers, but like it's a freaking band of his but Jimmy Carter though, but he did jog. He was kind of like that 70s guy, kind of,
And you got Johnson, Lyndon Johnson was very charismatic.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. On that interpersonal level.
Yes.
Johnson was very charismatic. That one-on-one.
Correct.
Like that's where, hence the Johnson treatment. He could convince guys to do things, people to do things and vote his way.
Yep.
He was very good at that. But yeah, Joe, I'm hoping Joe has a better couple weeks. He needs him.
Well, and I think also if you want Joe to have a couple of good weeks and you are like, you need to be supportive or just think about it as strictly a policy situation. And like, if you are writing these news articles, if you're really concerned, then maybe you should look at exactly what he's done in the last 4 years in a sense of policy, and really judge the man based on his efforts and his successes versus what he did or didn't do in a debate with a buffoon.
Yep. I'm with you.
So, keep that in perspective and don't let
You're making me feel you and Nate were working on me about this, man, because I was looking for a tall building Thursday night. I was like, man, this is bad. Like, I actually went to sleep because I was like, I can't watch any more post-debate. I'm so upset right now.
See? And that's like, you can avoid that entire thing, ladies and gentlemen, by...
I wanted to use my Obama voice and be like, go to stage, Joe, I'm going to handle this for you. And like, I personally do it. I'd be like, man, Joe, I'm going to cut this guy up for you because like there are so much. Again, I'm just a country lawyer and who does not have nearly the understanding of political policy that the Biden and his team does. But man, Donald Trump, it was just the font of lies and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, like as a lawyer, I can do the tete-a-tete. Okay, I would have just been like, okay, let's back it up, Donnie, and would have just been like, boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
And look, I think there was a day that Joe Biden could have done that. Maybe even there's a day coming forward where he'll do it, but he just didn't do it that day. That's for sure.
Yeah. And it'll be interesting to see how this moves forward or if there even will be another debate, because to be quite honest with you, I think we all know what these two
Biden's got to debate him. And there's one scheduled. Biden's got to show up.
Yeah, of course.
Biden has to show up. He's got to show.
I get it. He needs to come up and,
He's got to be good at the convention. He's got to be good at that debate.
Yeah.
And he'll be okay.
He'll be fine regardless. Because,
people like democracy.
Exactly right. Yeah, let's keep that in the forefront of our thoughts. Well, I think that we've pretty much covered the whole gamut. We've covered history-making NBA drafts. We've covered... there's also some controversy with the NBA draft for the Flipkowski guy.
Yeah, that's some weird stuff. Just read it. We won't even get into it.
We're not going to get into it, but maybe in a couple weeks.
Duke weirdo.
Yeah. Well done, Duke.
Yeah. We didn't touch on, we talked about the Lakers. JJ Redick, the Duke guy. New head coach. So that'll be interesting.
Should be fun.
Yeah,
fun to see.
So this is season 4, episode 21 in the books. So that certainly explains to everybody that there are 3 previous seasons,
Well,
and
if you're
there's
paying attention.
and there's
anyway.
20 episodes from this season where you could come find us, track us down.
Yep.
Lydia, where can they find us?
iTunes, Stitcher, Amazon, Google Play, Spotify, Audible.
Love Audible.
iHeartRadio, Deezer, Player FM, and Samsung. Anywhere you get your podcasts.
You can tell
find us.
Alexa, you can tell Siri, your
mom,
whoever
yeah.
you want, they can play it for you. You can find us on Facebook, right?
Yes, You Don't Know Jackpot.
They can find us on Twitter at @JackYDK. That's the face. That's the Twitter, the X for You Don't Know Jack. They can find you
At RTL Pod.
They can find me at JMGGMPG. So look, we got episode 21 in the books.
Yep.
It's been a little lighter load this season because just life and everything else we have it.
Yeah.
I don't want to give the store away, but I think we'll have a couple more episodes. We usually definitely August is usually our sort of dormant month.
Yep.
Especially when I have somebody sitting here who's going to be a pirate turning 40. Going around that bend in life,
Thanks for that. Yeah.
But hey, I didn't say who it was.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Some of us have already put that to port, and so,
Yeah.
but yeah, so we'll probably end up August. I think we won't, don't want to let the cat out of the bag, but our plan is to have a special guest here in a week or two.
Yeah.
Probably not next week because I will be in this coming weekend because I will be, it's the
Relaxing.
4th and it's the holidays.
Yeah, you take time.
But probably the week after, we're going to try to get a special guest on here for you and talk about local business and things like that. How you come up with certain names for certain products and how you name them after really important people.
Like Mustachio.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so more to come, but it's always a pleasure.
Yeah, it's the best.
All right, we'll see you next time.